Hello and welcome to Who Wore It Better. Before I get into the Raw and SmackDown reviews, I did want to talk for a minute about the recent passing of Virgil Flynn III. I talked about it last week on Independent Wrestling Weekly and on social media for the past week. He died a week ago today due to a stroke at the age of 33. I didn't want to speak too much. I didn't want to eulogize him in my independent news video because I want to try and stay objective in those, but I did want to talk about him a little more at length here in Who Wore It Better. I met Virgil 12 years ago during both our rookie years. Actually, he might have had a year or two on me at that point. In 2006, we met in Portland, Oregon during a taping of Portland Wrestling. This is back when all the California guys would come up to Portland to do these shows, and so that's where I met him. And so I've known him for a while, and even back then, in 2006, I could tell he was an amazing talent, so good in the ring. And over the years, I've shared many a locker room with him. You could just tell Virgil has this just positive aura about him. He just radiated happiness and positivity, and he was just always there to cheer you up and make you laugh. He's one of the few people in wrestling I've heard of where not only can people not say a bad word about him as a human being, but also not say a bad word about him as a wrestler. He checked both those boxes. He was just so smooth and effortless when he wrestled, no matter who he wrestled. I have a friend who once intentionally tried to have a bad match with Virgil. Like, he was doing everything he could to make the match bad, but Virgil wouldn't let it happen. No, I'm just gonna run circles around you and make everything look smooth and perfect and great. That's how good Virgil was in the ring, and he just took it all with a smile. Again, just a real positive force. Just he gave everyone a chance, you know, like because he would later go on to run his own business, VF3 Productions. He was promoting. You've seen his stuff on Stephen Larson's channel, doing the stuff with Adam Mayhem and the Friendo Road. That was all VF3. That was all Virgil's stuff there. And so one thing he was known for was giving younger wrestlers a chance. Like, he'd put two guys in the main event just because he wanted to be the first one to do it because they deserved it. That's the kind of guy Virgil was. And it's just so damn tragic when someone that young and someone who has that kind of impact on people's lives is taken from us so soon. From now until the end of August, myself and a lot of my colleagues in the pro wrestling world, especially on the West Coast, will be doing what we can to give back to Virgil's family in the wake of his passing. I know personally I'll be donating all the proceeds from my shirt sales at prowrestlingtees.com/wrestlingwithwregret to Virgil's family at the end of August. I know Stephen Larson is going to be doing that as well with their Pro Wrestling Tees site. The Reno Scum, Adam Thornstowe and Lester the Legend, they're the ones I got the idea from. I know Brian Kendrick, his Wrestling Pro Wrestling website, that merch money is going to go to Virgil's family. BrownButterWrestling.com, that website is a vendor for Hood Slam and Virgil specifically, so all that money is going to go as well. I'm going to post a link to a Facebook post that has a nice condensed list of like where people can go to help give back to Virgil's family, including a GoFundMe account as well. So check that out if you are so inclined. And all I can say is, Virgil, we love you and we miss you very dearly. And now let's make that awkward transition into my Raw and SmackDown review. Beginning with Monday night, the big announcement that was hyped for days. What would Stephanie McMahon be announcing on Monday Night Raw? First off, we got all the roster on the stage. Vince McMahon is in the ring. Nikki Cross is in the front row of the roster on the stage too, which is kind of a surprise. Is she called up? Is she just there to represent NXT? Who really knows? Triple H and Stephanie come to the ring. Triple H makes a lovely speech about the bond that all the wrestlers share in WWE. He talks about how proud he is of all the women who've accomplished so much in the last several years. You could tell it was a very emotional speech for him. You could tell just in the way he talked. You could hear the emotion in his voice. You could hear his voice crack a little bit. It was very real to him what he was saying there. Then Stephanie announces the Evolution pay-per-view happening in late October, the all-women's pay-per-view. It will feature at least 50 women from the past and present and the future, apparently. I guess there's going to be some unsigned women they're just going to bring in. It is a big deal, obviously, for WWE to put on their first ever all-women's pay-per-view. It is historic for them, and the women who are going to be part of the show have clearly earned it. They've put in the time and they've paid their dues. I get that. It's a great story for the women. However, at the same time, you get the idea that this is kind of partly damage control, considering the flap that everything that came up after the Greatest Royal Rumble, the Saudi Arabia show, the women could not compete at. So there's some bit of damage control there. That's kind of a make good for that. But also the fact it's just so funny for them to go, this is history making. This is so amazing what we are doing. They're really patting themselves on the back, pulling the old Barry Horowitz, patting themselves on the back here, when it's like Impact's been doing knockouts only shows for the last 5 years. Like, they did it 5 years ago. Not only that, we've got like all women's shows, like we have like promotions, Shine, Shimmer, Rise, Stardom, you name it. There's a lot of different, women's leagues out there who are already doing this. And they're already running pay-per-views. Women's Wrestling Revolution, Pro Wrestling Eve. I could go on. There's a lot of like all women kind of things going on. So for them to do it, it's like, okay, good for you. You finally caught on with the rest of planet Earth. The real challenge is going to be for the creative staff to figure out what to do with half the women on their roster. Oh shit, we got to give these women storylines going into this show. That's going to be nuts. Stephanie made this big deal in her speech about how the people made this happen. Good for you. The people, you made your voices heard. Hey, we've been saying for the last 3 years we don't want Roman Reigns in the main event scene, and you've done nothing about that. So what's the deal? Is this the one concession Vince McMahon gave? All right, pal, you can have the women's pay-per-view, but we got to keep Roman Reigns the main event at SummerSlam. As self-serving as it all was, that announcement at the top of the show was a big deal, but then the whole rest of the show was just evolution mania, where not only the announcers talking about it every other sentence, here, let's shoehorn all this artificial, stilted dialogue about it in backstage conversations with wrestlers. Let's have Braun fucking Strowman come out and talk about the women's pay-per-view like he should give a shit in kayfabe. It's just like, you've already killed the magic of the moment by having everyone come out and have this really just kind of hackneyed delivery talking about the women's pay-per-view. It's like, there is reason to be excited. There's reason to be happy and proud for the women there, but you could have gone about it in such a better way than what they did. We get the beginning of a running gag where Elias is on stage many times to plug his new EP, and he keeps getting interrupted. It happens like 5 or 6 times for the night. It would have been funny by the end for Joe just to say, ladies and gentlemen, you know the drill. But in all seriousness, though, I did listen to the EP on Tuesday. I listened to all 4 tracks. It was basically 4 uninterrupted Elias promos. He's like singing and he's just cutting heel promos while he's playing the guitar, which is great. I did enjoy the part in the 3rd song, Nothing I Can't Do, when he's playing piano, and you think the song ends, but he picks it back up. Like, you probably thought that was the end of the song. Just hilarious stuff there. It's good to listen to if you're curious. I think it's really cool to give Elias this opportunity and this platform. That was really cool, but beyond that, it's nothing really earth-shattering. It's not some amazing music you're listening to. Raw Tag title matches, the B team defends against the Deleters, Matt and Bray. Before the match, backstage, Curtis and Bo are talking, and Curtis says the B stands for brothers, and Bo says, "You're the brother I never had," which I thought was just hilarious. And speaking of which, we do get some more extended action between Bo and Bray in the match, which I think the fans were very receptive to. The Revival, always watching backstage. It's what they do now. I did enjoy the finish for this match. It's really cool. Matt hits the Twist of Fate onto Curtis. Bo breaks up the pin, throws Bray into Curtis, and he just kind of rolls backward into a pin onto Matt, and the B team wins. They retain by total dumb luck. Matt and Bray, they go for the handshake after the match, but then they hit their finishers instead. So I'm really curious to know what these two teams are going to do going into SummerSlam. Finn Balor and Chad Gable are backstage chatting about the women's pay-per-view in a totally natural way when Finn's stuff is getting moved out of his locker room, and it's getting moved to this like kids toy playhouse, which Constable Corbin set up for him. And Finn just kind of like shrugs it off and like he makes a joke about it, and it pisses Corbin off. I love this thing with Corbin where it's like he does this whole bullying thing. Haha, what do you think about that, small guy? And then Finn's like, oh, it's okay, or I make a joke about it, and Corbin just immediately loses his cool. He's like, motherfuck. Bayley and Sasha Banks are best friends again. They're hugging it out. They're just glowing now. They're so happy with their friendship now. They're taking on some local talent here. It's a squiggity squash match. And then afterward, I was kind of expecting Sasha just to turn heel on Bayley, just kind of to lull her into a false sense of security, but it didn't happen. They're just like, oh, we're friends. Yeah, let's take on the world, which is great, but it's like, that's kind of weird. It's like, it just feels so like, really? Is that all we're going to get? Like, is this really the end of the storyline, or is there something more at play in the future? Braun Strowman gets some promo time in the ring. He puts over the women's pay-per-view in a totally natural way. What a nice monster. Kevin Owens hobbles his way out to interrupt Strowman, says that, you threaten my livelihood by what you did at Extreme Rules. And so then he brings out Constable Corbin, who then introduces Jinder Mahal and Sunil Singh as a way to get them to like try and calm Strowman down for like anger management in the ring. Strowman's actually pretty funny here on the microphone with some of the stuff he's saying, but ultimately he beats down Jinder and Sunil. What a very odd segment. Let's bring in all these different extra players, the Strowman and Kevin Owens stuff, and it's just kind of a weird mishmash of things. It was just a weird segment, and the way Strowman comes out says, "Yay, women!" Whoa! Like that's okay. It's great you're a babyface, but it's just so unnatural for you to say that. So, yeah, weird segment. Mickie James versus Natalya. I'm digging Mickey's new outfit, very superhero-esque. I like the look. This match, nothing too special. Mickie wins with a Mick kick after Alexa on the outside causes a brief distraction. Sure, why not? This match didn't really do anything for me. I feel like I've seen these two wrestle a lot in the last month or so. So it's like, didn't do much for me. The authors of Pain come out and they're asking for a challenge. They call out anyone but Titus Worldwide, but who shows up but Titus Worldwide? They put over how nice of a man Titus O'Neil is. I'm kind of surprised they didn't mention anything about the Evolution pay-per-view. Maybe they did and I just wasn't listening. But then at the end, Titus and Apollo get the jump on AOP, and then they stand tall at the end of the scuffle. This segment really kind of I was sour on, because after 2 straight decisive beatdowns, like squashes, not competitive matches, squashes against Titus Worldwide, for them to stand tall in any circumstance is really weird here. Like, this order is all wrong. I think it would have been better if it starts out the angle with like AOP beating up Titus Worldwide backstage, interrupted a match, do this for a couple of weeks, then you have this segment where Titus and Apollo stand tall for a minute, and then you've got the decisive squash match by AOP. That would have been much better than what they're doing here, because now after 2 squash matches and this, what do you do from here? Do you have AOP lose the next one? No. Do you have Titus Worldwide win? No. So, like, what are you going to do? You have another squash match, and then what have you accomplished? Backstage, Kevin Owens says he wants Braun Strowman at SummerSlam, and if Strowman loses in any fashion, not just pinfall or submission, but countout, DQ, whatever, then Kevin gets the Money in the Bank briefcase. I am intrigued. Another rematch, another squiggity squash between Tyler Breeze and Mojo Rawley. They were planting the seeds a week or 2 ago between Mojo and Bobby Roode, and they're following up on that this week. In the middle of the match, there's this picture-in-picture promo where they interview Bobby Roode to get his thoughts on what Mojo is saying online. And Roode delivers kind of a shit promo. He goes, I'm comfortable in my own skin. Mojo can hide behind a keyboard. And that's like where he ends. Like, yeah? And then what? That was just a weird promo. This is not very good for Roode. I'm really hating Bobby Roode in the main roster right now. So yeah, Mojo wins the squash match. What are you going to do? So I guess last week I was acting a bit prematurely when I said that Drew McIntyre had split from Dolph Ziggler. Not the case, obviously, because Dolph was in Drew's corner as Drew took on Finn Balor. Nice little match here. Good look for Drew, because I love the strength of him. He suplexes Finn when Finn's on his knees. He no-sells a couple of sling blades. He doesn't take a bump. So Drew's looking good here in this matchup. Dolph causes the DQ. We get a beatdown. Seth Rollins makes the save. We get a tag team match playa. It's a good follow-up to the singles match, if only it being totally unoriginal booking. Seth flips Drew out of the ring with a Hurricane Rana, hits the stomp on Dolph to win the match, and then they reveal after the fact it's going to be another rematch, one-on-one, Rollins versus Ziggler for the Intercontinental Championship. I would love to see a 4-way between Finn and Drew and Seth and Dolph for the title. That would be a great match. I hope we get that instead of the singles match, which I'm sure as good as it's going to be. I think a 4-way between these 4 guys would be that much better. Liv Morgan's on her own tonight against Ember Moon in a rematch. Ember at one point hits this like kind of cartwheel headbutt to Liv Morgan in the corner. I couldn't tell if it was like a headbutt or a forearm, but the angle was really inconclusive to me. I really enjoyed this match. It was a quick match, but it was like super competitive, and it wasn't a squash. It was like they told a nice little story in a nice little package here. A huge eclipse by Ember to get the win back from last week. So boy, that first loss sure was necessary. Main event time, Bobby Lashley versus Roman Reigns. The winner faces Brock for the title at SummerSlam. WWE does this very interesting job of making simple, stupid things sound bigger than they are. They go to Roman Reigns, hey, the last time Bobby Lashley beat you was last week at Extreme Rules. Like, you know, it literally just happened, but that, oh my God, it was so long ago this match has happened. The match itself, I really enjoyed. I think better than their match at Extreme Rules. Hard-hitting affair, Roman getting tossed around, getting stretched. Lots of submissions by Lashley here. He's hitting the full Nelson on him and everything. He's just like stretching Roman from here to Kingdom Come. Fighting on the outside, Lashley tosses Reigns back into the ring, and Roman like spikes himself after going through the ropes. It just plants himself. Didn't look very good. These two just beat the hell out of each other. Roman does win with the spear. He gets his win back from Bobby Lashley at Extreme Rules. Okay, it was a great match by itself, but then like the soul-crushing reality sets in right afterward, and you realize it confirms what a lot of us have known and felt for so long and dreaded, and just kind of bargained to ourselves and to whatever deity we may or may not pray to, and just say, please don't let this match happen, and we're going to get Brock and Roman for the title at SummerSlam. Again, whoop-de-doo. Why do they think this is going to be a money match? Why do they think this will draw? I just don't get it. We've seen what happens when these two fight, and it's never good. Maybe they'll throw Lashley in and make it a triple threat match to try and diffuse the situation. Whatever. Like, if Lashley wins, Lashley winning the title in a triple threat match, to me, is the least depressing outcome of that matchup. I also think it's the least likely to happen. So, I don't have a whole lot of good faith in what Raw is doing with their main event scene right now. We move on to SmackDown, where Randy Orton opens the show to explain his actions from last week, where he just eviscerated Jeff Hardy's ear. It's a really great promo by Orton here, where he explains that he's pissed about a lack of respect from the fans. He takes shots at guys like Cena and Hardy and Lesnar and Finn Balor and just high flyers in general. He says he doesn't do any of that, so he doesn't get respect. It's a really great promo. He says the real legend killers are the fans. I'm not doing any justice. You should go back and watch it, because I think it's one of the best promos Orton's had in ages. Heel Orton is best Orton. First match tonight is Rusev versus Andrade Cien Almas. Very interesting dynamic here, because you've got two guys who are booked as heels in theory, yet both have a huge fan following. Really fun stuff in this match. A brawl breaks out on the outside between Lana and Zelina Vega. Aiden English runs in to try and keep the peace. He ends up accidentally getting shoved into Lana and takes her out. Rusev's distracted. Almas hits the hammerlock DDT to win the match, so big win for Almas there. So after teasing it like months ago, it feels like, then pumping the brakes, we seem to be finally now full steam ahead with this Rusev English breakup, and R-Sad. R-Truth versus Samoa Joe is next. Wow, R-Truth in his first televised match since WrestleMania, and he gets his full intro. That's a pretty big deal, and then he gets totally squashed by Samoa Joe, and that's that. Asuka versus Billie Kay in another squiggity squash match. Well, at least Asuka has won a match finally, so that's that. So the big question is, who will AJ Styles' opponent be for the title at SummerSlam? Paige is in the ring with the contract ready to be signed. Paige puts over the women's show for a minute before introducing AJ Styles. Styles puts over the women's pay-per-view for a minute, and he talks about it in a way as if Impact hadn't done it 5 years before this. So anyway, who will AJ's opponent be? It's James Ellsworth. What? He comes out and actually cuts a really strong promo. I really dug the promo he cut there, as short and sweet as it was. Paige fires him and literally kicks him out of the arena. I'm sure to be asking him about that when we see each other at APW next month, and we're working that show together next month in California. As that's going on backstage, Samoa Joe comes in, jumps AJ from behind, puts him in the clutch, and signs the contract. So yes, we are now going to have Samoa Joe, AJ Styles for the championship at SummerSlam. My body is ready. We get Becky Lynch versus Carmella in a non-title match, where if Becky wins, she'll face Carmella again at SummerSlam for the SmackDown Women's title. It's a good match here. It's pretty refreshing after 2 straight squashes. Becky misses a top rope leg drop, but she recovers by catching Carmella in the disarm her, and so Carmella taps, Becky wins, and now she's going on to SummerSlam. Like I said last week, I'm really enjoying this very natural, organic progression of Becky just winning consecutive matches and being named the #1 contender. It makes a lot of sense. And when it makes sense, it works. Our final match of the evening is the New Day taking on Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf of Sanity as part of a tag team tournament. Interesting how a few months ago, Raw got the tag team eliminator because allegedly Vince didn't like the word tournament, and now SmackDown gets the tag team tournament. Anyway, the winner of the tournament will be going on to face the Bludgeon Brothers at SummerSlam for the SmackDown tag titles. The Usos are on commentary for this matchup here, making fun of Byron Saxton. Action-packed action in the match. The New Day win with the up, up, down, down. Then after the match, the Bar return. They're facing the Usos next week, but this is kind of their reintroduction. It's been forever since we've seen these guys on TV. And they cut a promo to remind everyone they still exist. They're facing the Usos next week, and so I'm just glad to see these guys back. Some very smart synergy here. The final segment of the show was the Miz and Mrs. premiere party to coincide with the debut of the show happening immediately after SmackDown. Earlier in the night, we saw some backstage stuff where the Miz and Maurice were with their baby, Monroe Sky, and the baby got a face pop and all that stuff. And then it was believed that he was going to be taking the baby out to the ringside with the premiere party. But then when they walk out, it's an obvious stunt baby, obvious baby doll he's wearing. Just seeing him with the baby doll is super weird. And anyone who is held a baby, worn a baby, seen a baby, knows that babies are not that still when they're worn and stuff. It was weird to see that, and it kind of gave away the ending of what was going to happen. And so they show, let's get a sneak peek of this show we've seen commercials for 10,000 times over the last 4 months, but we actually, as it goes on, you realize it's actually kind of a look at all the gaffes and goofs that The Miz has committed over the past decade plus of the company. And oh, that wacky Daniel Bryan, he gets revenge on The Miz for what happened a couple weeks ago when The Miz showed the bad highlight reel of Team Hell No on Miz TV. So Daniel comes out, takes out security, lets himself in through the velvet rope because manners. He gets in the ring, and The Miz tosses the obvious baby doll into Daniel Bryan's arms. Daniel gets freaked out, he's distracted, and The Miz takes him out with a skull-crushing finale. And The Miz is like, this was all a ruse. Yeah, what an elaborate plan by The Miz. He somehow predicted that Daniel Bryan was going to put in some bogus footage in the hype package. The baby backstage was an actor. And then just like the whole thing was like some E-Fed level stuff, but like in a good way. It wasn't like, it was just so insane. Like, so wait a minute, The Miz like predicted that Daniel Bryan was going to come out and interrupt. That's why he brought like the fake baby out. Did he also predict that Daniel Bryan was going to do that stuff with the video? It was just so absurd and ridiculous. Like the whole segment started out super boring, and then it got interesting with Daniel Bryan and the funny video, then just got ridiculous by the end. It was like, oh, it really pulled me in. Like, oh God, you did a good one here. That was a really interesting way to end the show. Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, Raw or SmackDown. And this one, honestly, neither show like blew me away, I have to admit, but of the two, SmackDown was the stronger one, easily. I think, starting from the very beginning, the Randy Orton promo was just fire emoji. I loved that promo. Rusev versus Almas was a fun little match. The Miz and Miz's segment, like I said, it really I almost was going to put it as a con. If like basically everything before the hype package and the blooper reel, like I had me not interested, then after that, super interested. So really strong way to end the show after kind of lulling me into this false sense of like boredom. And what I liked about the show more than Raw, less beating you over the head with the Evolution pay-per-view. On Raw, they spent 3 ungodly hours just beating you to death with the news and showing the replay of the announcement and everyone with these hackneyed, shoehorned conversations about it. It was so piss poor. Seeing guys coming out against their characters in a lot of ways, especially with Braun Strowman coming out and talking about the women's pay-per-view and all that stuff. It was ridiculous. The one thing I didn't like about SmackDown this week was just like the 2 back-to-back squashes, especially Asuka versus Billie Kay. That could have been just a match you put on Facebook or something. That match didn't need to be there. With Raw, the things I did like, I enjoyed like the Finn and Drew and Seth and Dolph stuff. That was just good wrestling. Ember Moon versus Liv Morgan, like I said, short match, but a great story. And then Roman versus Lashley, even though we are pissed to learn this is what the main event is going to be at SummerSlam, at least the match itself in a bubble was entertaining. But things I didn't like about Raw, the overkill of Evolution, just pound that into your skull. And then Titus Worldwide AOP, for as kind of inconsequential of a storyline as it is, the fact that they went with this in the order they did it really stuck in my craw. Well, let me know what you guys thought about Raw and SmackDown this week in the comments section below, and be sure to vote which show you thought was better in the gimmick in the upper right hand corner of your screen. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com, and check out Patreon.com/WrestlingWithRegret for exclusive perks and bonus content. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.